all the way at number 4, new business, which brings us to Jim Shirley. Jim, I know you're not really new business. You're actually, you've been working for a very long time for a very good cause. Jim is the executive director at the Sarasota County Arts Council. And as everybody knows, the arts are one of the areas that have been really impacted by the pandemic. And that, of course, affects the downtown, it affects the entire city, it affects the county. And it especially affects the people who are involved in it. So Jim is here to tell us how things are going. How are things going?
Well, thank you, Eileen. I appreciate being here. First of all, it's really good to see all of you. A few of you I've seen on recent other Zoom calls, but you know, we're such a social community that this separation has not been easy for all of us, and I'm just glad to see you, and I hope you're all doing well and healthy. This has been a particularly difficult and trying time for the arts and cultural organizations and community, not only of Sarasota, but the entire nation, really. And locally, you know, the arts were pretty well the first groups out, and they're going to be the last ones back in as we continue to recover from the pandemic, meaning those organizations that have facilities that do productions, which is a major part of our community, as we all know and love. It's a big part of why we're all here. But we have not been sitting on our hands during this time. You know, it's a regretful situation that we face, but I would say to you that all of the arts and cultural organizations have been pulling together. My board of directors, 60% of my board of directors are presidents or CEOs of arts and cultural organizations. The other 40% are, you know, classical community board members, philanthropists, business people, and so on. And we typically would be having meetings every other month just because of the schedules of everybody. But as soon as the pandemic began to get really serious locally back in March, we made the decision that we were going to meet every month and with updates. And we're typically having fairly significant numbers of committee meetings, because what we've done is gone about the business of figuring out as a group of organizations and community members, how can we come through this? What do we need to be doing? We're tracking and monitoring all of the national theater groups, you know, performing art hall groups, opera groups, et cetera, to see what best practices or ideas are on a national basis. All of our organizations are talking routinely with each other about, you know, where are we, what can we do? The other thing that's been taking place is early on, we did a survey of all of our performing venues, and then looked at the requirements that would be placed on them if we could start coming back, you know, at a socially distanced situation. And we have all of those venues mapped out with, you know, what the seating charts could look like, and it's not pretty. But you know, and we're not there yet. We're not going to be there for quite some time. But we've been doing these kinds of things as groups through the Arts and Cultural Alliance to be able to be as prepared as we can when we're able to come back. Now, I think all of you know that many of the groups have been experimenting with virtual performances or virtual meetings, virtual art shows, everything that we can do to use the technology that's available to us to remain visible with our audiences, to remain relevant in the community to the extent that we can, and to look at how we might be able to use this technology to support each other. For example, when we first moved into this in March, the Arts and Cultural Alliance, went out and purchased a Zoom type package, a large one, that could be used by all of the arts and cultural organizations that wanted to use it at no charge to them, so that as a community they could have access to this type of technology for board meetings and so on like that. That's been very helpful, particularly to a lot of our smaller arts and mid-sized arts and cultural organizations who didn't need to spend that kind of money, you know, to go out and do it. And that's been very successful for us. We started a weekly chat group that we called Art to Art, and we made it look like a heart, so we left the heart out of it. But every week I've been convening meetings with a lot of the groups and just talking about what's happening with your group. These are all for either the executive or the volunteer runner or executive of the groups, and have them have the chance to talk with each other about things that they can do and so on like that. So it's been it's a trying time. We're not going to be coming out of this anytime soon. You may have seen, I saw an announcement this afternoon. West Coast Black Theater Troupe had been doing some outdoor, spaced performances, and unfortunately 4 of their actors came down with COVID, and so they've had to cancel that. So we experiment every way we can, but we're not going to do anything that's going to be dangerous or against any regulations, for getting back into business, because the real key is to get into business for the long run and to remain there. Now, one of the things that we've been able to do from an advocacy point of view is I've been convening groups of some of our larger arts and cultural organizations, and we have been working with the Board of County Commissioners on the current CARES Act program to see if there could be a logical way to get maybe an increased amount of support to these arts groups, because $50,000 is a wonderful help, and it could help a lot of these groups. But if you're running an opera or ballet or symphony, it's really not going to help you very much. So fortunately, the Board of County Commissioners convened meetings, and we put together a package that used the tourist development tax program that we have, the TDC grant money that we do, that 38 of our arts and cultural organizations qualify for and use for attracting tourists to Sarasota County. And in that program, the groups, depending on the size of their budget, yearly receive a grant that we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners, and through the TDC they approve. And the county commissioners agreed that if each of the groups could qualify under the CARES Act criteria, that they would be willing to provide up to 3 times the amount of their TDC grant that a group could qualify for. So, for example, if I'm Oslo Repertory Theater, or if I'm the opera, and I qualify for $80,000 worth of TDC grant money last year, then I could be eligible to apply for up to $240,000 worth of CARES Act money to help them get through this time and program. And that's an active program that's going on right now within the community. Not all of the groups will be able to qualify for it because, as you well know, there's some federal regulations in there that have to be met. But that's the kind of thing that we've all been doing behind the scenes, working together to see how we can leverage support for our arts and cultural community and our arts and cultural organizations to ensure that they'll be able to come back, when we're able to get back together and can safely reconvene. But there's been a lot of really interesting, other types of artistic work going on as well. I'm sure you probably know that Ken Sheelan and a great group of people have been working on a diversity public art project that will be celebrating diversity in our community through a major piece of public art. We've been working on a murals program that has been embraced by the city of Sarasota for developing artistically painted murals around the community as a way of providing income for local artists. I've been able to help raise money from various sources, and we've now completed, we're starting our 6th public mural that we've been able to do. And all of the money that we've been able to collect for that goes directly to the artist as a commission to be able to paint whatever it is we're painting. So we're able to beautify the community and provide projects that can help lend support to local artists who are capable of doing these kinds of things. And it's really been a good program. The people have been loving the art that's going up. We've got a couple of them out at Lido Beach that have been very, very popular. We've got one over on 2nd Street, one at West Coast Black Theater Troupe, and one near the corner of Orange and Fruitville. And these are available, for people to come and look at, and have just been really well accepted by the public. So we're trying to do a lot of these kinds of things to be prepared to come back when the timing is right. Most of all, though, we're keeping in mind the safety of our patrons, the safety of the public, one of our big areas of frustrations, for example, we do a lot of work with the public school system, with all of the school systems. And as you all know, they're back in school, but some of them are in school and some of them are at home doing virtual school. All of the arts and cultural organizations have educational programs to support the school system. Well, unfortunately, we're not able to bring teaching artists into the schools now. We're not bringing anybody in, and kids are not going on field trips. So we've been looking at how can we provide different type of programming via this type of technology, video technology and remote technology, to help supplement the teaching capability of the teachers in the school. And many of our groups, like the Van Wezel, Oslo Rep, have been able to help develop programs that are available to teachers and families to be able to help support and encourage the arts. It's just a matter of the priorities and getting it all done. Teachers are trying to teach and parents are trying to figure out how to work and be parents, and it's a confusing time out there. But a lot of activity is going on, and we're channeling the energy through the Arts and Cultural Alliance so that we can all share this information with each other and do the best we can to stay afloat and then to get back in business as quickly as we can. And so it's been an interesting time. I think that we're still quite a ways from being able to get back to any semblance of normalcy. You probably have seen most of the organizations have pretty well canceled their programming for the coming season, if you will, from now through, say, April, May of next year. And we're hoping that we'll be able to do some periodic programming. For example, I'm working with Parks and Recreation at the county level and in the cities to use assets that we have. We have a county showmobile, for example, where if you look at getting people together, part of the problem is getting the audience together. The other part of the problem is getting the performers together. If you're singing, you can't be standing right next to each other and projecting, or if you're playing instruments, you have to be spaced. So Parks and Recreation is working with us to, starting in December, we're going to be doing once a month some type of public event in a park situation, utilizing the showmobile and one or two of our groups to help bring some performances back to the public in a safe way. The parks would be laid out in distance on grids where people can space themselves. So we're trying creative things to try to get, to stay relevant and to stay in business. But we also keep first and foremost in mind the safety of the audiences and the safety of the performers. So there's a lot of things going on out there. What I would say to you is, as you talk to your folks around, I think most of you know, you may not know, the Arts Council, the Arts and Cultural Alliance, as we call it now, is a membership organization. Every arts and cultural organization in Sarasota and Manatee County are members. Most of the individual artists are members. And then we have a large number of private individuals who are members because it helps us with our advocacy. If I go sit down to talk to, say, one of our elected officials, I'll pick Vern because he just got reelected. And if I say, Vern, I think this, well, that's what one person thinks. But if I can sit down and say, I and our 2,000 members who are all voters think this, then we've got a lot more leverage to help get support for the things that we all believe in. So if you're not a member of the Arts and Cultural Alliance, you can go to our website, sarasotaarts.org, and follow the prompts to join or to membership and join, because what the money does is it helps us continue our mission in the community, and it helps us be able to provide strength in numbers for doing the advocacy that we do. So if you have a way of encouraging your friends and so on to join, I strongly recommend you do, because it helps us be able to make some of these things become a reality. So that's a quick summary. I could go on all day long, but if anybody has any questions or thoughts that you'd like to throw out, I'd love to look at anything we can. Ken?
Well, there are 2 points that I'd like to make. One is similar to what you were just talking about, Jim, and that is the credibility that the organization creates for others. And that involves the group I'm a part of, this Diversity Inclusion Public Art Project. We are a special project of the Arts and Cultural Alliance. But even better, the Arts and Cultural Alliance is our fiscal agent. It's a problem, it's a process that every arts organization and every fundraising group has to go through. And it's saved us a lot of angst and a lot of money for the Arts and Cultural Alliance to take on that responsibility for us. So we're really grateful for them being there and the safety that they provide us and our potential donors.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, a lot of you may know, but some of you may not. This organization has been in business in Sarasota since 1986. We were Bob Johnson, Senator Johnson at the time, when the legislature passed the ability for communities to have what is known as a local arts agency, and that is the designated arts agency in the community where we're able to receive funds to help the arts in the community. For example, if you buy a state-of-the-arts license plate in Sarasota County, a portion of that fee that you pay to the tag office is sent each month to the Arts and Cultural Alliance, and we collect that money and then we use it to fund granting programs for smaller organizations that are not do not qualify for the TDC grants. Okay, years ago when there was a John Ringling Tower over near where the Ritz-Carlton is right now, a lot of people in the community didn't want to tear the John Ringling Tower down, so there was a large pool of money that was raised from the public to try to save the John Ringling Tower, and of course they failed ultimately. But when that happened, the Secretary of State sent the remaining money to the Arts Council, to the Arts and Cultural Alliance. We invested it in endowment funds at both the Community Foundation and the Gulf Coast Community Foundation, and every year we use the interest off of that money to help support professional artists in the community do what they do best, are trying to do in the area of visual arts, performing arts, and literary arts. So we are a mechanism to be able to support and fund the arts at a lot of different levels. As Deborah Jacobs used to say, we're kind of like interstitial tissue. We're kind of in the middle of everything and try to hold it together. And Bob knows right now we've been working now for about 5 or 6 years on the prospect of being able to attract a live workspace for artists on the North Trail as a way of providing affordable housing for artists in the community and to help continue to revitalize the North Trail. And we're working with a group out of Minneapolis called Art Space and trying to get that done. We've got a window of opportunity that's opened itself back up, and we're working very hard behind the scenes right now to try to make that happen. So there are a lot of different projects that are going on that we kind of, we're kind of the cement that holds it all together out there. And we need your support. We need your brains, ideas, and we always can use the money to help things work. So any support you can give us, we certainly appreciate.
Jim, if somebody wanted to get involved in a specific project such as Art Space or something like that, can they do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have committees to work on all of these things, and the more people involved, the better off it is. So absolutely. All they have to do is contact me, or you'll go to the project space on the website and it'll get us but just give me a call and we'll get you involved. Yeah.
Wonderful. I have a question, and then I'll throw it open again. You talked about murals and art projects throughout the city. Who approves the murals and art projects?
Well, that's a good question. It started out, the very first one we did are the Sarasota Heroes, the masked ones that are over on 2nd Avenue. And with that, actually, Sarasota Magazine came to us, and they were looking for a way to be able to honor our frontline, healthcare workers. And they said, Jim, could we put together something to do a mural? And I said, well, we could if we had some money. And so I went out and talked to a couple of private funders that we know, and we had a little bit of money in the Arts Alliance that we put together. And we were able to come up with enough money from those two sources to be able to pay the commission for the artists to do the work. We worked with the owners of the building to get that up. And as we were doing that, it was attracting a lot of attention, and it was a very popular thing to do. So Tom Barwin, the city manager, came to me and said, well, this looks like a good idea. We ought to be doing more of this around, help people get energized and so on. And I said, well, Tom, all it takes is money. And so the city had set aside some money to do economic stimulus of businesses during the COVID period of time. And the city manager went to the Board of City Commissioners and recommended that they set aside a small amount of that money, $25,000 was the amount he asked for, to help do a murals program where we could be able to pay some money to the artists to help them, get some income and then beautify the city through it. So that's where most of those others were done in between. I was able to stretch that money and add some others to it. So $25,000 came from the city. And then for the murals at Lido Beach, one of the murals that we did there was recognizing the historic civil rights wade-in that took place at the Lido Beach, back in the late 60s. And actually, Business Sarasota County had been real involved in helping get that designation as a historic site, which is out there. And Virginia had put together some money in her budget through the TDC that had been set aside for doing some sort of a public recognition project at Lido Beach as a part of that project. And we were able to tap into that money to pay the artist to put together those two murals out at Lido Beach. So kind of one thing has led to another, and it's been a multiple sourcing of funds to help make those happen.
No, that's wonderful. Does anybody, Ken, go ahead.
Jim, did the City Commission and the Public Art Committee play a role in the mural efforts?
Yes. Well, what we did was the City Commission approved the money for the second, third, and fourth murals that we did through that economic stimulus program. We had a committee putting it together, and Leslie Butterfield, who had been the head of the Public Art Committee, sat on that committee with us. We decided not to put it into the city's public art program because then you've got sunshine laws and all kinds of things to deal with to have money or to have meetings. And we were trying to get this done in a fairly quick fashion, but fully within the purview of the City Commission, who approved the funding that came to the Arts and Cultural Alliance to pay the artists to do these few commissions. So that's how that particular program happened.
So who owns the art?
The art is that's a good question. Each one of them is under a contract, and we have a contract with the building owner, and it's a contract between the building owner, the Arts and Cultural Alliance, and the artist. And what we've asked for in each one of them is that the piece of art is going to be staying on the building for a minimum of 24 months. And that's the commitment that's made up front. After that, if the building owner wants to, they can paint over the art or change it. But until then, the maintenance on it is controlled by the Arts and Cultural Alliance and the artist, and the art is on the building that it's on.
Any other questions from the board? Questions or comments? Any other questions or comments from any of the guests? If you do, please turn your video on. All right, well, I have another question for you.
Okay.
Have we lost any arts organizations during this time?
Knock on wood, to date, not. Several of the smaller ones are struggling, and yet they are finding ways to continue to stay in business. But to date, we have not lost any. Many of them are concerned that, that they're not going to have a season. They don't have a way to generate income or revenue other than their donor support. And because they're not selling tickets, they can't have events. But so far they've all managed to figure out how to survive, and we're working really hard at making that happen. But it just depends on how long things go on, really.
Barbara Campo, you turned your video on. Or did you have a question? Put your unmute yourself, please.
Did I do it correctly?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Barbara.
Yeah, hi. How are you doing, Jim? Good
Good.
to see you. When I encourage people when they move into this area to do three things. One, get your driver's license. Two, register to vote. And then also apply for your Florida homestead. I wonder if perhaps you couldn't encourage realtors to suggest that to people who are new homeowners. But in addition to the three things I just mentioned, they could kind of sort of encourage people to join the Arts and Cultural Alliance at the same time. That would be 4 really good things to do. And then whatever else they join after that, of course, you know, that would be of their own concern. I don't know if that's something you would think would be a good idea or not.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and as a matter of fact, we do that. We you know, what we've had, we end up working with sometimes groups of realtors, sometimes individual realtors, but you know, we provide a guide to arts and culture every year that we produce as a part of our contractual agreement with the TDC for the tourism bed tax money. And we print about 40,000 copies of that book, and I make that available to realtors so that as they have people coming into town who are interested in the arts, which are many of the people that come here, they're able to provide a good background for them, and through that program and encourage them. We're going to start actually at the beginning of about the end of this month. We're going to be doing a dedicated drive to increase membership, during this time, so that we can continue stronger advocacy. And that's definitely one of the areas that we're going to be focusing on. It's a great idea, Barb.
Well, thank you, Barbara. If there aren't any other questions, Jim, I think we're going to let you go and have your dinner, but let me just make sure I've got this correct. It is Sarasota Arts with an S.
Yes.
.org.
.org. Yeah, there's 2 A's at the end of Sarasota. SARASOTAARTS.org. And then once you get to the website, you can just navigate to join, or any number of things. Look at public art, look at diversity public art, anything you want to. It's a very robust website, and probably one of the most visited websites in the whole this whole part of the state. But we appreciate your help if you can.
Well, we certainly will. Patrick, you have a question?
Just a final thing. Jim, yes, DSCA did join the Arts Council, I think a year or 2 ago, and then this last year had not been active with that, but that was something that we had done as a supported organization.
Absolutely.
And as such, we had actually looked at using the meeting facility there on their first floor back when people were meeting, but having access to that. But we had talked about doing some joint programs, or when they have a program that might be targeted towards the downtown area, right. Like they did with the art scavenger hunt, which was a great idea. Right. So things like that I think we can reach out and do events. We did an event last year with the lawn bowling thing that was targeted at condos, doing a challenge. So if there were an artist group or something that wanted to do, or a group that wanted to do a challenge for downtown or something, virtually or otherwise, that may be an area if to our events committee take a look at something like that, or suggest.
It would be, and we welcome all of those ideas and try to get involved in everything that we can that supports bringing the arts to the public in the community.
Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate your taking the time to be with us today.
My pleasure.
And we will do our best to advertise your website so that
thank you.
Promote membership in such a good organization.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you.
You guys have a great meeting, and thanks for everything you do in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.